Well, everyone, we're going to go ahead and take a look at the iPad mini 6 and see how this specific iPad holds up in 2022. Now, this thing has only been out for a few months, about 10 months now. It's about to be 12 months, a year very, very soon. And one thing I will definitely tell you about the iPad mini 6 is that this specific device is either you love it or you hate it. There are a lot of people who are probably in the middle too, but it seems like the consensus of everything that I've seen is that this specific tablet is a very good iPad for people who like a smaller sized iPad. It is one of the cheaper offerings for this somewhat bezel-less design or newer type of design, but the only issue that kind of was happening in the beginning, which was this jelly scrolling issue, kind of is still stagnant on a lot of different devices, and because of that, it kind of puts this iPad in a weird spot. Either people are going to pick this iPad up regardless, but when you actually go and buy something like this, and with a widespread issue like that jelly scrolling issue, that can cause a lot of people to be discouraged to buy this type of iPad. But what I will tell you regardless, if you're going to be buying an iPad for a long period of time, typically any device where Apple makes a severe change in terms of the design, there's always going to be some issues most of the time. And so it's better to wait until the next generation when they actually fix those issues. But in this case, this design is pretty much the same as the iPad Pro from 2018. It's just a smaller design. So it's weird that even happened in the beginning with. But I'll tell you, if you're going to buy it, I would recommend buying it. It's going to be really good. It may not be perfect for a lot of people out there, but I think it has a lot of capability. And I still think it's a very good iPad for sure. Now, starting off with the outside, we have this beautiful 8.3-inch LED liquid retina display on the front, and I think it's a really good panel. You know, it is missing a few things. It does not have ProMotion. It is a fairly high resolution, which is really good, and the PPI is pretty high too. But I will say this is either the make it or break it for you. Either you like this thing because of its smaller size, or you hate this thing because of its smaller size. If you're in the middle, I would probably recommend buying a bigger sized iPad like the iPad Air 5, or even a used iPad Air 4. That may be a little bit of a better situation for a lot of people out there. But with this type of iPad, with its 8.3-inch panel, I think it's perfectly fine. I really don't have too much to complain about it, to be honest. Now, we do have the front-facing camera there too, which is really good. We have a Touch ID sensor on this specific iPad as well, which can be a huge advantage for a lot of people as well. And on the bottom, we have a USB Type-C port. Now, this was actually the first time we saw a USB Type-C port on a iPad mini. Before this, it was just still all Lightning ports. So I'm glad Apple actually ended up bringing that for these specific iPads. And we have the standard aluminum back as well, but we have the flat sides too. So I feel like a lot of people forget that. The previous iPad, I mean, if you all don't remember what it was pretty much that older iPad design. Apple never changed up the iPad mini design. They kept it exactly the same. So now with this one, they brought that newer design with it, which was really cool. It has flat sides on it. It looks very good. And as I mentioned before, there's really not that much to complain about it. So I think this specific body still looks good. And I think it's going to be here for a long period of time. I don't really feel like this iPad is going to be outdated. I don't think it's going to feel outdated. And I think this is going to be a solid one to pick up for sure. Now, in terms of the camera setup, we have two cameras on this thing, the front camera and the back camera. There's no, ultra wide sensor. There's no telephoto lens, but I still think for this thing being a single lens, it's still pretty decent. It's a 12 megapixel wide angle lens on the back. And we do have an extra front camera, like I mentioned before, which is really, really cool. Now, the coolest thing is with that 12 megapixel ultra wide camera on the front, this was also a pretty big, I would say, change from the previous generation, which I'll get into in a second. But the back camera, I think, is pretty decent. It's almost like an iPhone XR camera. I think that's like the best way I can describe it. It's a 4K at 60 camera. You can do 1080p at 60 and all these other things too. You can do 1080p at 240 if you want to. But this type of camera is good if you want a small tablet to bring with you that you can also go ahead and take photos. If you want something to go ahead and take in class with you, if you're a student, you can use an Apple Pencil to draw things and take notes, but you can also use this really solid camera at 12 megapixels to go ahead and take advantage of the, if you want to go ahead and copy text to using live text with the chipset inside of this, you have that capability of doing so. And it's a little bit, just makes things a lot more portable, which I always found very, very helpful. So in my opinion, that is a really big advantage of this type of, tablet, is you can go ahead and pretty much use a camera that's pretty solid. And if you don't want to bring a phone with you and you don't want to whip your phone out during class and take a photo, well, you can go ahead and use an iPad like this. And even if you're not in class, if you're using this for other things, it's a solid camera and I'm actually a big fan of it. But I actually think the front camera was a pretty big upgrade from its previous generation. With its ultra wide camera, it can do 1080p at 60, which is nice. But the big thing is with the ability of actually following you during video call, which is called center stage. So you can actually go ahead and in a FaceTime call, if you're walking around, if you're doing something, it'll actually track your face. And I actually found that really cool. So there's a lot of devices that support it right now. And I believe this iPad and the iPad 9th generation were some of the first ones to support it. So I'm a fan of it. I'll definitely say this camera is very solid. And I, for one, I'm a pretty big fan of these specific iPad cameras for sure. They're not amazing, but they've been getting a lot better recently. Now, on top of that, in terms of the software longevity, I'll definitely say this iPad is going to last for a long period of time. But we're in a weird conflicting situation right now, where something like the iPad mini 6, it may not get as many features as something like the iPad Air 5, even though it came out almost exactly the same time. The issue that we have is that with iPad Air 5, that one has the M1 chipset. The iPad mini 6 has the A15 chipset inside. So the issue with this is pretty much when we have something like the iPad mini 6 and the iPad Air 5, it may mean that the iPad Air 5 will get a better experience than the iPad mini 6 because of the A15 Bionic in this specific device. So it's not a guarantee. We'll kind of see what happens in the future, but that's been one thing I've been seeing over and over again. I hope it doesn't end up being like a widespread thing that Apple does, but I guess we'll have to see what happens in the future when we actually get to this point. So I think the longevity of the software is going to be here. I mean, this iPad's going to be supported for a long period of time. It just depends on how much time and how many features this iPad is going to be getting, and I think that's probably the best way to put it. So in terms of that kind of covers it up there. Now, in terms of the actual performance of this iPad, I think this iPad is a very, very good performing tablet. This thing has the A15 Bionic, like I mentioned before, and it's a very fast iPad. I mean, it really depends on what you're going to do with it. I feel like for my personal use, if I were to use this iPad every single day, I'd be using it to take notes, to do all sorts of other stuff like that, but also to go ahead and maybe edit videos here and there. Maybe I would want to go ahead and play some heavier intensive games. I'd be watching a ton of YouTube videos and like picture-in-picture, and I'd be basically going through like that and maybe taking notes using my calendar, different things like that. I don't necessarily utilize my iPads to their full potential. Even with me saying that, the mixture of this thing being as portable as it is and with the performance that you can get from it, it's solid. My iPhone 13 Pro has pretty much the same internals as this iPad. I think this iPad has a little bit less RAM, but I will tell you from everything I've done with my iPhone, it has been able to handle every single thing I've thrown at it. And that means including if I want to go ahead and go through and, play super heavy intensive games like Genshin Impact. If I want to play some minor games, like, I don't know, like Roblox or something, I can go ahead and do those things. If I want to go ahead and do anything super crazy with my device, I have that type of capability with my iPhone. And with this iPad, it's the exact same process. And anything with this iPad, it's actually a little bit nicer because you're having a bigger display. So I will definitely tell you from a performance standpoint, it's very solid. Is it perfect? It kind of depends, I feel like if you want to have a little bit of a performance heavy tablet, maybe you want to go for something like an M1 chipset device. But other than that, I think the iPad mini 6 is still completely worth it from a performance standpoint as well. So in terms of that covers it up there. And to be completely honest, I think the iPad mini 6 is still a very solid iPad. I've personally been using this type of iPad, and iPads like this for many years now. And I think this is still a very solid one to pick up. Is it perfect? Like I mentioned, I don't know if it's necessarily perfect, but I believe that if you're going to go ahead and buy an iPad, and if you're planning on keeping it for a long period of time, and if you don't necessarily feel jealous if another iPad comes out, then I would recommend buying this thing. I think it's great. But like I said, the longer you wait, the better the iPads come out and everything like that. So it may make a little bit more sense to go ahead and wait it out, but I would recommend buying it regardless. So that may cover it up. So that's kind of it. If you have any other thoughts or questions, please let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.